and welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. And welcome, everybody, to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Boy, you know, I got to tell you, if you think you work really hard, I've got a story to tell you about a couple of guys that are working really, really hard at developing their company and what they do. They're very, very gifted at it. And I'm talking about Alan Lazaros, who's with us right now. Alan, how are you today?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. I do not take it lightly to be able to speak into the lives of others. 9 years ago, I started listening to podcasts, and now I'm on the other end of that. And I benefited so much from all the podcasts that I listened to, so it's cool to be able to be on the other end of the mic.
And what we're going to talk about today, I think a lot of it has to do with some myths, some misnomers, and also some ways for you to be more successful if you decide that you wish to go down this road and have a podcast or a radio show. Now, my background is more radio show. Podcast is kind of a newer thing for me, and I'm now doing a radio show on the Brushwood Media Network in addition to what we do everywhere else. But you guys have been doing, for the last 10 years, since 2013, you have been doing podcasts and developing your company. How did you guys get started doing it? Was it kind of I don't know, I got a microphone, so do I. Hey, let's do a podcast. How'd that work?
So it was 2017 that we started. So seven years ago. But that said, I don't know where you read maybe I don't know where you researched that. But anyways, so I just want to be as honest as I can always. So it was actually interesting. So I'll give you the shortest possible version. So my father passed away when he was 28 in a car accident when I was 2. I got in my own car accident when I was 26, and it was kind of my second chance that he never got. And that's when I really got into self-improvement, and I started listening to podcasts a ton. And I was so inspired. And so I started a podcast called Conversations Change Lives. And Kevin, my business partner, had a different Kevin, had a podcast called the Hyperconscious Podcast. And he was my first guest. I was his first guest. And then we just ended up doing them together. And we had the worst podcast title of all time, the Hyperconscious Podcast meets Conversations Change Lives Podcast. And then we went all in on Hyperconscious, which is change the way you think, change the way you act, change the way you live. And then we rebranded 400 or so episodes in. I think it was like 450 to what's now known as Next Level University, which is holistic self-improvement in your pocket every day from anywhere on the planet, completely free, 1% improvement per day. And so we're hoping to be sort of the male role models that we never had because we both grew up without dads. And that's the shortest possible version I can give you.
That's a really short version because there's so much in between there that I'd like to explore. But first of all, the self-improvement aspect of it, because when your dad passed away at such a young age and you recognize that you didn't have him as a guide, and then the accident that was your own, was that a horrific accident? Was that something that gave you a lot of downtime to think about, or was this kind of just a motivating factor of just moving you forward?
Well, I call it my quarter-life crisis, sort of an existential crisis. So fortunately, I'll tell the story briefly about the accident. So at this point, to provide some context, so father passed away when I was 2. I had a stepfather from age 3 to 14. My stepfather left at 14, and in hindsight, I now understand that was the hardest year of my life, even though I didn't realize it at the time. I've since done some therapy in my 30s. I often joke I'm hoping to hit puberty at 36. So I look 12, but I'm actually 35. And so I've been reflecting on my life a lot in my 30s and realizing all this stuff. So I didn't understand any of this back then. But so at 14, I realized now. So stepfather, we were the Lazaros. So my real last name is actually McCorkle. So my
Ah,
stepfather was Steve Lazaros. And so I took his name at age 7. We were trying to sort of be the Lazarus's. And because of that, we didn't really talk to the McCorkles much. So my birth father, John, was part of an Irish Catholic family, big Irish Catholic family. So it was Jim, Joe, John, Jane, Joan, Jeanette. There was 6 of them, and my mom and papa, which is my father's father and mother, that was the sort of Irish Catholic side of the family. So when we became the Lazaruses, we kind of didn't talk much with the McCorkles. And then when my stepdad left at 14, he not only took 90% of the income with him, but he also took his entire extended family with him.
oh
And
yeah.
I haven't seen any of them since. So not a single one of them. I have spoken to my stepdad on Facebook Messenger a little bit. Now, at that same time, 14 years old, again, didn't realize this at the time, sister moves out with her older boyfriend. And my mom gets in a fight with her aunt, her sister, Sandy, my aunt Sandy. And then my aunt sort of ostracizes us from her side of the family. So again, didn't know this until my 30s, definitely didn't have the courage to talk about it. I kind of lost 3 families by the time I'm 14.
Yeah.
And not only that, but our income was lower because my stepdad left. And so I didn't know how I was going to go to college. So I ended up bootstrapping my way through high school. I got straight A's and I got every scholarship and financial aid I possibly could. And I ended up going to my dream college, which was $50,000 a year, $50,000 a year back in 2008. It's
Back
called
then.
WPI. Yeah, back then. And it's kind of like a mini MIT engineering school. And so I go there, I get computer engineering degree, I get my master's in business, and I'm off to the races to what was my dream, which is to be a Fortune 500 CEO, like my hero at the time, Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs is no longer my hero. I admire many things he did, but I also realize some things not so much. But the point is that was my dream. And then I went into corporate. I was on my way. I worked for a bunch of tech companies, iRobot, Sensata Technologies, Oz Development, Tyco Safety Products, company called Lens Americas. They do drives for automation. And then I eventually landed at a company called Cognex. Cognex does industrial automation equipment for manufacturing facilities all over the world. It's kind of like the eyes of a robot. It's machine vision is what it's called. And I was on the road. I'm getting to the car accident, and I was on the road. So I started an inside sales engineering team at Cognex, and then I got promoted to outside sales. My territory was Vermont, Connecticut, and Western Massachusetts. And I made a lot of money, but I wasn't super fulfilled. Fast forward, I'm with my little cousin up in New Hampshire. It's 2015. At this point, I had paid off 84 grand worth of debt in a single year. I had $150,000 in a Vanguard account. I'm in my early 20s, no family, no home, low expenses, just making really good money, achieving what I thought was my dream. But deeply unfulfilled, partied too much and too often, high school friends, college friends, corporate friends, that kind of thing, too much, spreading myself thin. So anyways, I'm up in New Hampshire. We're not partying or drinking or anything like that, but we're driving to a TGI Fridays. It was a bad winter back in 2015 when the snowbanks were covering the signs, and I was supposed to yield throughway intersection, dark winter night, and I ended up on the wrong side of the road. And I thought there was a Mack truck in front of me. Big bright lights, like 10 feet in front of me when I looked up from the GPS. Fortunately, 2 things saved my life. It wasn't a Mack truck, number 1. It was actually a lift-kitted pickup truck. If it was a Mack truck, I might not be here. Probably not. And number 2, I was driving a 2004 Volkswagen Passat that I bought with $5 grand cash because I wanted to pay off all my student loans. And it was a German-engineered steel trap of a car. I used to call it the tank. And it was a heavy car, super safe car. So thank you, Volkswagen. And so both airbags deployed. He hurt his knee on the airbag. I hurt my face on the airbag. But so physically we were okay. But mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, remember, this is the second chance my dad never got. So I was just absolutely filled with all the existential questions of what was the point? Am I proud of the man I became? Filled with regret of all my poor choices. What if that was it? All that. Because I grew up my whole life hearing through the grapevines sort of stories about John, my dad. And so I just, after that, I flipped the script. And so the best way I can describe it now, again, in hindsight, is before my car accident, I was successful and unfulfilled. After my car accident, I actually went all the way past broke, started my own company, and I was fulfilled, but not super successful. And we talked about podcasting being a long game and how it's hard to succeed. And then now I'm very grateful to be both successful and fulfilled. And so now that's what I help people with. I'm a business coach, and I help people in 3 buckets. You're either successful and unfulfilled like I was, and you need to reinvent yourself and your career, or you're unfulfilled, but you started your business and you love it, but you just don't know how to grow it. Or you are, one of my clients, her name's Yvette, she came to me, she said, listen, I'm already successful, I'm already deeply fulfilled, I love what I do, but I want my life to be an amplified version of what it already is. So can you help me scale and grow? And at the end of the day, I'm a computer engineer mind, so I complement her very well with metrics and numbers and structure and systems. And so at the end of the day, that's who I am and what I do. And it's been a hell of a journey for sure. Yeah.
Well, most of the time and then thank you for sharing that with us, because it really gives us a lot of context. Because a lot of times, you've heard of the midlife crisis, and when it seems to happen like in your early to mid 40s, you why am I here? What have I been doing? I'm not fulfilled, so I go get a younger wife, or I get the fast car, and I'm bald and short and I got a fast car, and people know what I'm doing and stuff, and that kind of thing. And rather than, you were lucky because you had that early in life and made that transition, which I think everybody wants to do at one point. Some people are fearful of it and they don't, and so they stay put. And you took the grand leap knowing that you'd already been successful. So you're going to be successful again. It was just a matter of time and getting the right format and getting everything together. But you did it in a way that, and looking at your information and what the type of people that you are, and both of you together, and the type of amazing family out life that you are creating for the people that you work with, and your entire team, which is over 30 people strong. It really is encouraging to see that people can make that transition. It ain't easy though, is it? Because you're working 7 days a week.
Well, that's the thing, right? So I have this iceberg, not only an asset that I use in my coaching, but I have it in my office on this whiteboard right over here. And the iceberg's a great metaphor because the results are above the surface, and below the surface is all the other stuff. And so I'll hammer it quickly, but metrics, habits, tools, tasks, systems, choices, skills, values, resources, awareness, beliefs, environments, influences, standards, and potential. And so people will say, well, that must be nice. And we get a lot of that now because we work for ourselves, we work from home. We are coming up on $500,000 this year in revenue, which is awesome for a podcast. It's not really awesome for a business, but for a podcast, that's a lot.
It's unheard of.
Yeah, it's very good. It's so interesting because I'm a business guy. So for a business, that's actually not that much.
Well, and the interesting thing about podcasting is everybody goes, well, hell, Joe Rogan got $100 million.
Yeah,
I'm going to do a podcast and I'm going to get $100 million. And it doesn't work that way.
Joe Rogan is the 1% of 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 1%.
And so, he's been doing it for 10 years.
Exactly. And then before that, he was already Fear Factor and a comedian and all the other stuff too. So you got to reverse engineer it. But the point is with this results thing is people come to me and they say, I want this result. And I say, but the thing is that you don't want everything underneath that iceberg. And so Kevin and I work 6 days a week front facing. From my service window is what I call it is 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. As a matter of fact, this is a little later than I normally work, but I'm happy to be here. Thank you. And Kev does 5 days a week, but we work on the weekends too. We just don't do front facing stuff. So we don't do podcasts and that kind of thing. I only have 2 modes, Kevin. One is front facing mode, which is what you get here. And the other one is gym clothes. So but anyways, yeah, so it's awesome, it's great, but what comes with it is a lot of stuff behind the scenes that really is quite challenging. Yeah.
Well, and I want to get into a little bit, and I want to use my show as an example of what I'm trying to do, and so that we can give our audience, because there are lots of people that want to do podcasts out there. My advice is, if you want to start a podcast, you need to get some advice before you even begin to spend any money,
Mm-hmm.
because if you have the wrong intentions, you're not going to it's going to be very difficult. You're going to get mad, and you're going to get frustrated, and you're going to have what they call podcast fade, which means you're going to do so many of them. Your mom listens, your brother listens, your aunt Jill, your Gertrude listens, and nobody else does. And you're, and you're like, oh crap, how am I going to get to have 1,000? And then you look on the internet and it says, if you want to monetize this thing, you need to have 1,000 listeners per episode in the first 24 hours. And you had 3. Okay, this is going to be a long slog, and so people quit. And
Mm-hmm.
so I encourage you to find someone like Alan and his partner Kevin, to go to work with them. They can at least dispel, because you guys are honest, and you will dispel some of the myths that are out there, and some of the things that people will do, because quite frankly, there are lots of companies that would like to sell you the
Mm-hmm.
concept of, we'll build you a podcast. But that's not what they want to do. Is first of all take your money, and then they'll work on it. You do it kind of, and I'm not exactly sure how the money comes into it, but I know you operate with integrity, because that's the person that you became after your accident,
Thank
because
you.
you recognize that life wasn't going the way you wanted it to, so you made these fundamental changes, and you learn this stuff. That's really important.
Well, thank you. And the truth of the matter is I used to be an achiever and I used to be improvement oriented, but I wasn't self improvement oriented. And there's a big difference between those two things. And so I had my my midlife crisis early. My quarter life crisis is what I call it. And instead of buying a Ferrari or trading in my wife or girlfriend, I just ended up looking inside and getting self improvement. I got hooked on self improvement. And so for the podcast thing, though, we have a framework called wrong time perspective, wrong expectations, wrong approach. So a lot of people go into starting a podcast, us included, by the way. When we first started, we had the wrong time perspective, meaning we thought it was going to pay off way quicker than it did. There's something in business called the 2-2-7 rule. You start a business, it takes you 2 years to go into debt, takes you 2 more years to crawl out of debt, and then it takes you 7 years to actually be successful and profitable. And I remember when I heard that, I was like, not us. And guess what happened? Exactly that. Yeah, exactly that. So wrong time perspective means you think it's going to be some quick fix. It's not, unless you happen to go viral, which is very rare. Number 2 is wrong approach. You don't have the right framework. Consistent quality content is the most important. It's the bottom of the pyramid. Until you can consistently show up and improve your content, everything else is negligible. Right? It doesn't matter if you have the perfect ad or the perfect intro. If you don't have good quality content that your listeners can count on consistently, you're going to have trouble growing. Okay? So wrong time perspective, wrong approach. And then the third one is wrong expectations. If you're expecting 10,000 listens per episode in your first year, I got a wake-up call for you. Okay?
And if you believe that, I got a bridge I want to sell you.
Yeah, exactly, right? If you believe that, I'm gonna make that 10x in 10 days. It's like, yeah, you can get 6-pack abs without any effort, right? No. So at the end of the day,
that's what my son said.
If it's too good to be true, if it sounds too good to be true, it is. So at the end of the day, but long term, you can win. You can win. So the very first year, we did an episode a week, and we only had 1,054 listens in the entirety of the first year, which was really, we didn't know what was wrong. We didn't get it. I remember 4 listens an episode. It's like, what the heck is going on, right? At the very, very, very beginning, we get more than that per day now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the compound effect. I always say this. People are going to buy Coca-Cola, not Sam's Cola, because no one knows who Sam is. It's okay, right? People are certainty driven. They don't know that your show is great when you only have 12 episodes. You have to build a brand. You have to market it appropriately. You have to sell yourself. And at the end of the day, selling yourself nowadays is just actually being yourself, because that's rare. And so, yeah, if anyone's curious about podcasting, I've been doing it, and we've made every mistake in the book. We have 35 shows that we produce, including 2 of my other ones. And it's not what you think. The things you think will work, that people are selling you quick fixes on, don't work. But what does work is the fundamentals compounded over time. And I can give you the right time perspective, the right approach, and the right expectations. And if you have the right expectations, the right approach, and the right time perspective, you can really make something great. And you can build a real community of real people. And that's what we have worked really hard to build, is we get to know our listeners. I mean, we coached our listeners for free in the beginning just to build a community.
And I want to make that really important point you just made, which is after post-COVID, if there is such a thing, because I don't think there's going to be, because I think it's going to be around for a while anyway. It's important to build community because everybody's so lonely. Everybody stays home, and the situation is changing. Building community, I think, honestly, I think that's the next big thing. Is going to be groups that like-minded people that can get together to form groups of people that really begin to care for one another and understand each other. We're talking with Alan Lazaros. We need to take a real quick break, and we will be right back after this message. Please stay with us.
They have your eyes. They have your ears. They have your smile. Now all they need is a little more of your time. Make a difference in your child's life, because anyone can be a father. It takes time to be a dad.
And welcome back to Positive Talk, everybody. My name is Kevin McDonald, and I just love playing that. I love playing that commercial, too, because being a dad and being a father are 2 different things, and be a good dad, because we don't have enough of them. In any event, we're talking with Alan Lazaros. He is the CEO. Are you the CEO, the CFO? What's your title, sir?
So I'm currently CEO and CFO. Kevin was the CFO. And then we realized, why do we not have the computer engineer doing the numbers?
And he couldn't balance a checkbook. But
besides that.
But in any event, you guys are building a really state-of-the-art kind of new type of business that is out there, because, correct me if I'm wrong on any of these numbers, there are probably worldwide over 1 million podcasts. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's actually 5 million. Yeah.
Oh, you're kidding me. No wonder nobody can get any traction.
Post-COVID, it was 5 million. Like right in 2021, 2022 is the last time I researched this. There was a big spike after COVID because everyone was home and a lot of people started podcasts. So I think it's now down. It's probably more like 2 million, maybe 1 million now.
I want to ask you, one of my gripes is that, and tell me what you think about this, is that somebody can do a podcast and they can do 12 episodes, and they could have done it in 2021, and those 12 episodes are still up on all the platforms, even though the person who did it is now off doing other stuff and is never going to do it again. But those episodes are still there, and they're taking up space and time. I wish that they would update their things and remove those old episodes so that new people who are actually dedicated to the craft, because it's going to be like everything else. It's going to become a craft of what you can do. But what do you think? Do you think that would be better?
Yeah, I think that would be a lot better. I think if there should be maybe if you don't do it for 2 years or 18 months or 12 months, then you'd be put into a cancel policy or something. But at the end of the day, I also understand that when you put something up on YouTube, I mean, I had YouTube videos that I did way back in 2015, 2016, and they're still on my YouTube channel. So I'm half and half on it because I understand. I love open source knowledge. Open source knowledge means it's up forever and you can search it and it's there, and you also can look back on it too. I have one video in particular that's on YouTube. It was my very first YouTube video. It's called Real Life Superheroes. And I show my clients who are scared to jump on the mic, I say, let me show you how bad I was in the beginning. And I have it unlisted and I send them the link. And so I'm half and half on it. I think on one end, I'm grateful because if those episodes are really valuable, now they're there for somebody. But on the other side, it does suck if people are keep on taking people's attention when someone like you or I is looking for those listens as well. So I'm half and half on that.
See, and I can imagine, because you've gone through the school of learning how to do this, how to talk, how not to go, yeah, and those sorts of things, and you've become a professional at what you do. Can you teach that to somebody, like in a weekend or a week or a month?
You can teach the principles. You cannot. There's theoretical knowledge and then there's practical knowledge. So I have something called the 25 impact points of effective communication. And I knew those intellectually years ago. I just wasn't as good at them as I am now. And so the filler words of like, I try really hard not to do that. And it's only speakers really know consciously when someone else is a good speaker. For everyone else, they just are captivated and don't know why. And so the 25 impact points: tonality, no filler words, historical context. I rate myself I used to do it every week. I can't say that anymore, but every other week, every month, I go through each and I rate myself from 0 to 10 on each of these categories. And so I appreciate the compliment. It's very clear that you're a speaker and you notice that I've worked on my craft. And I think that ultimately the cream will rise to the top. So if you're good enough at what you do and you're adding value that is relevant and important and captivating, I do believe that you'll win eventually. But that's the thing. We're all trying to be successful. But at the end of the day, I do believe in meritocracy, and I believe that if my podcast isn't as good as yours or whoever's, then you should listen to them. And I think it makes us all better to be competitive in that way as well. So hopefully that's helpful.
Oh, absolutely. And by the way, I interview a lot of guests, and probably I've interviewed 2,000 guests here in the not too distant future or past. And the interesting thing is, I tell them it's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. And they're like, I understand. They're like, oh yeah, it's like some are really good, and some are new, and some require questions, and there's a whole bunch of different ways of doing it, I suppose. But the major thing is, and I want to get your advice, if I could, in regards to positive talk and our growth potential, because my stated goal is to provide a big enough platform in all the things that I do so that I can bring incredibly talented people on, mostly people like yourself that are interested in self-improvement, group improvement, human improvement, family, and things like that, to provide them with the biggest platform that I can so that more people can hear these valuable messages. Is that a good goal to have if you're going to have a radio show or a podcast and you're going to be an independent?
Absolutely. So we talked about this a little bit there's the filler word. We talked about now I'm noticing it. We talked about this a little bit earlier, which is the syntax of some people. Some people start podcasts to make a lot of money and they're probably in trouble. Other people do it. So I'm here for two reasons. Number one, I want to serve and impact, because when I had my quarter life crisis at 26, I realized I didn't have the impact I wanted to have. And I'm here to serve. Number two is I'm here to practice my craft. I want to get better. I want to learn how to have more powerful pauses. I want to articulate things in a way that's impactful. Because what's between your ears is your brain. And if we're in people's ears, we can change their lives. And I'm not talking in a woo-woo way. I'm talking my life changed because I heard certain people speak into my life, mentors that I needed when I was younger. And those podcasts changed my trajectory forever. And we have an opportunity right now to influence someone in a more positive direction. And the reason I'm here is because positive talk radio, that's exactly what the world needs. It needs positive people who are trying to do better and better their best. Because everyone does their best, quote unquote, but they don't better their best. This this episode I think is going to be valuable, but hopefully next year I'm even better. And the year after that, I'm even better. And to me, that's what I always needed when I was a kid is particularly a male role model, because I grew up without a dad. So did Kevin. And that's why I really loved the ad that you showed. That was about the difference between a father and a dad. And I needed a role model. I needed someone to speak into my life, because I'm 35 going on 36, and I'm hopefully going to be smarter at 36 than I am at 35, but I'm way smarter at 36 than I was at 19. And so what I needed was some guidance, and I was open. I was humble, and I was open. I was willing to learn. But truth be told, I've reflected on some of my male role models in the past, and they just didn't measure up. I'm disappointed, particularly now that I'm their age, or at least I'm their age now when I was back then. But to your point, it's a great goal. And I think if it's growth first, impact second, and profitability third, I think you're setting yourself up for success. And as long as it's community building and it's based around a core value of positive talk, I think you're in a good spot for sure.
Well, thank you. I would like to think so, because for me, it's not about the money. Because it's inconsequential to me. It's about the impact. It's about how like the conversation that you and I are having today. Somebody's going to listen to this, and it's going to impact them in one way or another, and they don't even know why until they listen to it and stuff. So, and it's really important, because when you had your quarter life crisis, I had a midlife crisis. I wish I'd had a quarter life crisis, but I didn't until I was in my early 40s, and that's how it happens for most of us. So I could kill to be your age again, young man. Okay, I wouldn't kill anybody. That's over.
You funny.
But I would be so happy to be, because I'm 66 now. And so I'm nearing the end of my broadcasting career, as it were, and you're just in the beginning of having a global impact. And I know that's your stated mission, is to impact as many people in the world as possible with a positive way to live, and which is why I love having you on the show. And Kevin was on the show as well, and you guys are both dynamic people. If somebody wants to contact you, how do they do it?
So you can. Now I'm noticing all the filler words. You
Don't be self-conscious.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Easier said than done, huh?
Yeah.
So you can contact me. We have a website called nextleveluniverse.com, spelled just like it sounds. The podcast is Next Level University. Come learn. You can learn. That's why it's university. So Next Level University. It's on all the podcast platforms. And it's spelled just like it sounds. And you can also email me, ALAN, first name, Alan, at nextleveluniverse.com. But if you do, please provide context, because like all of us, I get a lot of spam.
Boy, no kidding. They need to do something about that. But again, we're talking with Alan Lazaros, and we are going to take a quick station break because this is the Brushwood Media Network, and it operates like a radio show. So that's why we do what we do, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends who love and support you, look closer. There are youth right in your community who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. And for 50 years, Covenant House has worked relentlessly to keep them safe and protected. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. They get clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So look closer at Covenant House. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
And welcome back to Positive Talk. My name is Kevin McDonald, and Next Level University is the podcast, and Alan Lazaros, and they've got 2,000 episodes of that thing up there. It's just amazing to me. And they work really hard. They work like I do, and I do like this is my third podcast today. And I
Nice.
enjoy it. I got to ask you, because I love doing this. Do you feel energized when you and Kevin do a podcast at the end of it and you feel like you've accomplished what you set out to do?
Yeah, so this is the duality. We love, you've always heard you got to love what you do, you never work a day in your life. Now, fair. And I agree. We love what we do. I feel energized and I will feel fulfilled after this. But there are times where I'm dragging and I don't want to do it, because we've done an episode every day for the last many, many years. And I got to tell you, some days I don't have it. I don't have it in the tank. So I show up with my 20%, or I show up with my 30%, or I show up with, sometimes it's 100%. And so this is the tail end of my day. I've done back-to-back-to-back podcasts and coaching calls, and I'm coming up on my 10,000 hours, which I'm very excited about. I have this thing called a 10,000 hour tracker, podcasting, speaking, coaching, and training. And I adore what I do, but I don't like that to be misleading, because I don't want people to think that it's easy. Because it's not. It's really, really hard. I don't always want to show up, but I'm always glad I did. And I think that's the difference, is you don't know you love something because you always want to do it. You know you love something because you're always glad you did.
But in your case, balance is also a key, because you're a young fella and you got lots of things to do in life, and not all of them have to do with work, if you know what I mean. And so
Yes.
it's important for you to have balance, and which is why I really appreciate what you said at the beginning of this, because we got a little late start, but your time is 7:00, and that's your time, and that's when I'm going to let you go, because I want to honor the fact that you have a life and you're here past your normal working time anyway. And it's important that people recognize that even if you're doing something that you really love, you can do it to death and it can really not serve you anymore.
Yeah, we drive a Tesla, and recently it actually is a self-driving Tesla, which is wild. But the superchargers, I always say, where's your supercharger? So the Tesla, there's trickle chargers like regular ones, and then there's the superchargers that charge it really fast.
Yeah.
And we went on a road trip down to South Carolina. We went through 8 states down the East Coast, from Massachusetts to South Carolina, and it was awesome. It was great. 2 days there, 2 days back, and then stayed in South Carolina with her family for, it was like being in Jurassic Park. The place was great. It's called Beaufort. But anyways, we had to plan it based on the superchargers. And I always say to people, where are your superchargers? Meaning, what are the things that fill your cup really well? So one supercharger is quality sleep. One supercharger for me is I'm a film buff. I love movies. So a great movie I'm the most fulfilled dude ever. I love it. Right now we're watching the 1984 Gandhi movie.
Oh, yeah.
It's magnificent. Yeah, so we're doing it in 3 parts because it's 3 hours long, so we're doing an hour each night. But you got to know where your superchargers are. So to your point of the balance thing, I like to use the word harmony. I work really hard, but I also rest hard.
As well you need to. By the way, I wanted to ask you, I can't remember if it was you or not, because I do so many of these, but there's a guy, and I think it's you, that could pick the year that a movie was made almost flawlessly. Was that you?
No, but I do think I would do well at that.
Oh, okay. Because I picked Thelma and Louise, thinking that was obscure enough that he would have no idea.
And
he said, he said 1991.
Nice.
And then his friend looked it up. And the cool thing is about the podcast that you guys do, you guys are very close and you do it as a team. And so if somebody's energy is a little bit down, the other guy can pick it up and vice versa.
Absolutely. We do that all the time. Yep. He went on a trip to Scotland he was gone for 13 days. I was gone for 7. But when he got back, he was on flights and travel and all kinds of stuff. I think he was up for like 28 hours or something crazy, which we do not recommend. But I was picking it up for that. Yeah. So we pick each other up for sure. It's my girlfriend and I, we do that too. We live together. And we always have this question, 0 to 10, where are you at? Meaning I picture a cup. A full cup means you're full charge. Your Tesla's fully charged. You're ready to rock. An empty cup, 0 would be you're empty. And so we have a question, where are you at 0 to 10? And she'll say 6. I say, is it headed up or down? She'll say, yeah, pretty steady. I was like, okay. So now I know where she's at. If she said it too, I would say, how can I support you? And Kevin and I do that too in business. Yeah.
Do you know how, number one, rare that is? And number two, what the quality of that advice is? Because most people don't take the time to take the temperature of the other people around them and to find out how they really are. And then it takes a lot of honesty between two people and depth to be able to talk about it in a real way, which says, I gotta tell you, Alan, I'm on a 1.5. I'm really, and for you to be able to say, how can I support you? Or I'm a 10 and you're a 3. How can I bring you up and stuff? That's really important. That's if nothing else from this episode, that's a great piece of advice.
Thank you. Yeah, we have a podcast it's called the Conscious Couples Podcast. I'm not here to plug that, but we've been coaching couples for 3.5 years, my girlfriend and I. And so we've learned these things, these simple things that make all the difference in the world just through couples from all over the world. We coach couples from all over the world. So you just learn these. That's why coaching's so cool. You learn so much. I've learned more from my clients than I've probably taught them. I mean, all different industries, all different backgrounds, all different businesses, all different types of people, male and female. So you just learn so much trying to help people. It's almost like if life is a video game, I've played every character and I've helped every character succeed. And again, I still have a lot to learn, so I'm holding that duality. Obviously, I don't know everything. But if that's good advice, it's only because we learned that through coaching couples and doing it ourselves in our relationship as well. And so, yeah, it's been really cool. And one last piece here too that I think would be valuable for everybody. These problems that you have, these challenges that we all have, you think they're a you problem when they're actually just a human problem. And I know that viscerally because I coach so many people and I see the same problems, the same challenges. Every couple has this very similar challenges, not identical, but similar. And communication, trust, being burnt out, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's pretty amazing how universal the human experience is.
Yep. We're all different, but we have universal challenges in the human condition that have fairly similar solutions. And that's been really cool to synthesize as a coach for sure.
Well, communication is and honest communication. I did a show earlier today, and they were talking about conscious communication is really an important couple of words to put together there.
Yep.
And I told her she had to write a book, but because conscious conversations means that you're going deep. You're not thinking about the superficial. I know people who were married. I was one of them, married for 24 years. I don't think we had a consequential conversation in our entire marriage. It was all based on superficial stuff of how the kids are, what you do at work, and we're going to friends, and all that stuff. Not. I don't think, now that I think about it, I don't think I ever asked her or she me, how are you doing today? How full is your cup?
The fact that you're willing to admit that is huge. I mean, that's wild. Yeah. And we see that often, right? My value is say things that matter to people who care. I got that from a man named Jim Rohn, a personal development speaker. You know, Jim Rohn, yeah.
Yep.
But I think some people spend their life saying things that don't matter to people who don't care. And I just don't want to, I can't do it. And maybe that's just a me thing, but the whole small talk thing for me, I'm not into it. I want to go deep. I'm an existentialist. Why are we here? What's our purpose? What are we doing? What? And I want a life of meaning and of value and of depth and of quality. And I remember before my car accident at 26, it was very not that.
No. Well, you had the opportunity to see what your life, how important it was, because you could have lost it at that moment. and it was important for you to move forward. And you've done a really beautiful job. I'm just curious to know, when you and your beloved are sitting there on the couch and it's a Saturday afternoon or whatever, you're just kind of hanging out and you're reminiscing, not reminiscing, but you're contemplating the future and where you can be in 20 years. Where do you see yourself in 20 years?
Emilia and I. So we're strategists, and this is vulnerable for me because we have it all mapped out.
Of course you do.
We're gonna have, so we want to have 3 homes.
You're an engineer too.
Yeah, exactly. I'm very long-term strategic thinking. So we're debating between 2 or 3 children, and again, we're holding the duality of, we know that this is what we intend, and then there's theory versus practice. So in theory, 3 children, we want 3 homes. One's going to be ocean, one's going to be lake, one's going to be mountains, and 2 are going to be abroad, and one's going to be U.S. We're debating on where that is actually right now. One of the reasons for the road trip is because we're looking at homes for next year, which we're excited about. She doesn't like the cold in the Northeast. I
don't blame her. It gets really cold in the wintertime there.
It does. Yeah. So she loves it here in the summer. Today we went for a walk. It was wonderful. So nice. But I get it. I do. I love New England forests. I grew up in New England. I do love New England, but we're going to go down south most likely. But anyways, and then business-wise, so we have a company together, her and I think that you'll find this fascinating, but also fairly funny. I make this joke, so I'm not a comedian, but I think this is funny. So the chances of divorce are very high, statistically speaking. The chances of businesses that succeed or that fail are also very high. So we decided to do both. We're in business together. We started a podcast together and a business together. It's called The We, which is me plus me is the we, and the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. It's a really awesome business. We have a podcast underneath it. We coach. We do RT events, relationship talks events every month for free, and we have couples all over the world. We got our own little community, and we have clients as well. But anyway, so there's that, and we want to grow that. I mean, we want to keep growing that. We want to have our own book. We have something called the 25 Conscious Love Languages. So if you've ever heard of Gary Chapman's book, The 5 Love Languages.
I interviewed him in 2003.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, so we have, nothing against him, but we have our own. We complexified it with my computer engineering brain, and she's brilliant too. So it's awesome. And so the 25 Conscious Love Languages, we have a PDF that we give out, and you sit down with your partner, and there's 25 of them. So health and fitness is one of them. Understanding each other's trauma is one of them. Personal growth and personal development is one of them. So there's a lot more love languages than just the big 5, which for Gary Chapman, it's words of affirmation, quality time, physical touch, gift giving, and then there's one more. Acts of service. Acts of service.
That's right.
Yeah. And so we have those 5, which is a great concept and a great start. And we have 25 that we've come up with that we think are vital. And we've had so many, dozens of couples, if not hundreds, do this worksheet where you rate from 0 to 10 the importance of each of them as individuals without looking at each other's scores. And then you compare and contrast, and you realize you're missing each other on all these things. So for Emilia and I, fitness is my 10 out of 10. For her, it's adventure. And I'm not a big adventure guy. I mean, I'll sit here and work all day, every day. So I need to, now we climb mountains together because it integrates fitness and adventure. And so we've climbed 6 mountains together, and we track it now because I'm the computer engineer numbers guy. And so anyways, the point is where do we see each other? Building our dreams together. She has a business called Evolve Ventures Technologies. I have a business called Next Level University. And then we have a business together called The We, which is just the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So we want to live a life where we maximize our growth, our impact, and our quality of life. And we want to have children. And it's been pretty unbelievable, honestly. We met 5 years ago, and it's the best relationship I've ever had in my entire life, and she's my person. I love her so much. She's my fitness partner. She's my intimate partner. She's my best friend. It's beyond the whole NLU success and business and stuff. I planned on all that. This is beyond my wildest dreams. I mean, honestly.
Well, and I will tell you, your children are going to be scary.
You're funny. They'll be the weirdest of the weirdos.
They'll be the smartest kid in their class. They're probably going to be the best looking kid in their class, and they're going to have a lot of future with them, and that's which is great. Congratulations. I think you're obviously on the way. You figured out the podcasting thing, which is no small feat, by the way. And congratulations on employing 35 people. That's a big deal, and giving people a vocation that they can grow with over time, and that kind of thing. And again, I'm going to let you go because it's now 7:00 your time, and your information. Let's get it out one more time, and then we'll say our fond adieu, because I want to honor your lovely one.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I try to cut work by a certain time. That's why we actually moved it down to 6, but we had already booked this. So thank you for having me, first and foremost. I really appreciate it. Thank you for all the kind words. You were very gracious and humble, and it was wonderful. So thank you. Very positive. It was a very positive talk. I expected nothing less.
Of course.
And where you can find me, nextleveluniverse.com, spelt just like it sounds, nextleveluniverse.com, all one word. Next Level University, spelt just like it sounds, on the podcast platforms, all of them. And then you can email me, alan@nextleveluniverse.com. Just say, hey, if you're looking to build a bigger, better, brighter future through health, wealth, and love, and you want to improve yourself or be more fulfilled. So it's success and fulfillment. That's all I really do. I'll help you be more successful. I'll help you be more fulfilled. Some people are unfulfilled. They want more success. Some people are successful and they want more fulfillment. So either one of those, I think we need to be ambidextrous. We need both. And if you're interested in that, reach out and just please provide context again, because like I said, I have tons of spam that comes in my email, like all of us do. And I want to make sure that it's a real person.
Exactly. I'm getting that all the time. It's like, hi, how are you?
Yep.
I don't know. Who are you?
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
So anyway, Alan Lazaros has been our guest, and I want to thank you again for doing this. And I'd love to have you on again, and we can talk more in depth. But you guys got it going on, and I really appreciate that. So it's with great affection I say adieu, young man. Go have your Friday night.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. It's a pleasure.
Have a great night.
You as well.
And there he goes. That's Alan Lazaros, and he's got the website and the podcast, which is Next Level University. And I encourage you to go there and to see him. And right now we're going to take a quick break, and we will be back with more right after this.
A lifetime of savings can disappear overnight. Millions of dollars are stolen every day from unsuspecting older adults by family members, caregivers, and trusted professionals. If you suspect financial exploitation, call the Elder Care Locator at 1-800-677-1116 or go online to the National Adult Protective Services Association to be connected with help in your area.
And welcome back to Positive Talk. And we were talking with Alan Lazaros from Next Level University, and they've got like 2,000 podcasts up. It's just remarkable. I want to play for you next. This is a repeat of something that we did a couple of weeks ago with one of the friends of the show, Dana Parker, and her fiance, as well as his 21-year-old son who has cancer. And I want to play this for you because it is, I think, an important piece that deserves to be heard more. So with that, I'm going to play this right now.
So after we got the news that Hiram had stage 4 cancer and that he was not going to be cured, after several months in the hospital, he was able to come home and live life, as normal as possible. And one of the interesting things that actually took place with this is that his girlfriend from high school ended up coming and visiting him at the hospital. And I just never imagined that this would actually take place, but she fell in love with him again, and they hit it off, and she ended up proposing to him and wanting to marry him, and basically said that pretty much, I'm either going to date you, and when you pass away, I'm going to be heartbroken, or I am going to marry you and be heartbroken. So either way, I'll be heartbroken, and I'd rather live the rest of my life, or the rest of your life, with you, being married to you. So
they've been such a great example of love, and Sophie and her commitment to Hiram and soaking up every moment. We really have loved witnessing their love story and who they are, and their marriage and their life after. And so we've put together some highlights of these miracles and moments that we've soaked up with Hiram and Sophie and their story of who they are, and the miracles that we've experienced over the last year and a half. So take a moment and enjoy.
Let it go, let it roll right off your shoulder. Don't you know, the hardest part is over. Let it in, let your clarity define you in the end. We will only just remember how it feels. Our lives are made in these small hours, these little wonders, these twists and turns of fate. Time falls away, but these small hours still remain. Let it slide, let your troubles fall behind you, let it shine till you feel it all around you. And I don't mind if it's me you need to turn to, we'll get by. It's the heart that really matters in the end. Our lives are made in these small hours, these little wonders, these twists and turns of fate. Time falls away, but these small hours still remain. All of my regret will wash away somehow, but I cannot forget the way I feel right now. In these small hours, these little wonders, these twists and turns of fate, every twist and turns of fate, time falls away. Yeah, but these small hours still remain. They still remain. These little wonders, all these twists and turns of fate, time falls away. But these small hours, these little wonders still remain.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got. That's Kevin@kmmedia.pro.